My wife and her best friend, who's also her boss, secretly stole $350, $0 from our family business before she divorced me, and now she's fighting me in court over the house and the money. Everything happened overnight and I'm left with nothing but broken trust and debts I can't pay. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to get like this, but here I am, trying to piece together how everything fell apart so quickly. It all started with a gut feeling, then a series of small, weird signs that I ignored at first. My wife had always been a bit of a bitch, sharp-tongued, manipulative, and pretty damn good at hiding her true self behind a smile. But lately, there'd been something off. She'd come home late more often, excuses became more elaborate, and she was constantly on her phone, locking the screen whenever I got close. It was during one of those late nights after she'd gone to bed that I decided to check her phone. I don't know why, I guess I just felt weird, like I was missing something. Maybe I was looking for reassurance or just trying to understand what was going on. I didn't expect to find what I did. Her messages with her boss, Mark, were nothing short of explicit. They weren't just flirtatious. They were talking about meeting up, about sex, about how much they hated that I was always around, blocking their time together. When I saw those texts, my stomach sank. My mind raced. How long has this been going on? How could she lie to me so easily? A master at hiding her true feelings, and she's always been good at making me feel like I was overreacting or paranoid. But reading those messages, I knew I wasn't imagining it. She'd been cheating on me with her boss for months. And not just cheating, she'd been stealing from our family business too. I found out she and Mark had siphoned off $350, $0 over the past year. That's a lot of money, and it's gone now just like that. I couldn't sleep that night. I felt sick, anger, betrayal, heartbreak all crashing into me at once. How could she do this? How could she lie to me, cheat on me, steal from us, and then have the nerve to act like everything was fine? I was furious, not just at her but at myself for not seeing the signs earlier. I kept replaying moments, trying to find where I went wrong, wondering if I'd missed the clues. The worst part, she's so good at lying. She told me she loved me, that she was committed, that she was just stressed with work. And now I realized she was lying all along. The next day I confronted her. I couldn't keep it inside anymore. I showed her the messages, the bank statements, the evidence of the theft. Her face twisted into this bitchy smirk, like she was amused that I finally found out. "Oh, come on, Tyler," she said, rolling her eyes. "You're overreacting, it's just work stuff. Mark and I are just friends, you're making a big deal out of nothing. You're so insecure." That's her typical response: deny, lie, deflect. She tried to gaslight me, make me feel like I was losing my mind. She said I was paranoid, that I didn't trust her, that I was crazy for suspecting her of cheating. But I knew better. It hit me so hard that I couldn't even argue. How could she be so callous? How could she lie so effortlessly? The betrayal cut deeper than I ever thought possible. It wasn't just the affair or the theft. It was the way she looked at me, like I was just some obstacle in her life, not someone she loved or cared about. I felt numb, like I'd been punched in the gut, and all I wanted was to run away from the pain. But I couldn't. I had to face the truth. In that moment, I realized my world was turned upside down. My wife, someone I trusted and loved, had been lying to me for months. She'd been sneaking around with her boss, stealing from our business, and now she was fighting me over the house, the money, everything. I didn't know how I was going to get through this, but I knew one thing: I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without a fight. After that confrontation, everything changed. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, trying to process what I'd just discovered. My wife kept up her usual bitchy attitude, throwing around her lies like they were shields. She insisted she wasn't cheating, that Mark was just a friend, and that the money was all a misunderstanding, that she was going to fix everything. Yeah, right. I saw through her bullshit immediately. She always lied, and she was good at it. But this time her words didn't match what I saw on her phone and in those bank statements. I started digging deeper. I needed proof, proof she couldn't deny or spin her way out of. I contacted our accountant, who confirmed the missing $350, $0 from the business accounts. I also hired a private investigator to confirm the affair. Turns out, and Mark had been meeting at hotels, dining out, and texting each other constantly. I even found pictures, screenshots of hotel reservations and secret messages where she promised Mark she'd leave me, that she was tired of pretending to be faithful. That was the moment I knew I had to do something drastic. I wasn't just going to confront her again. I was going to take control of the situation. I needed leverage, evidence, a plan. First, I contacted my lawyer. We drafted a plan to freeze the assets, especially the house and the money she had stolen. I also wanted to get full custody of the kids if it came to a divorce. I realized she was capable of anything and I couldn't trust her anymore. I felt sick, but I knew I had to act fast before she could cover her tracks or spin more lies. The more I uncovered, the more furious I became. She lied about everything, her job, her intentions, even her love for me. I remembered all the times she'd told me I was insecure, that I was paranoid, that I was overreacting. I'd been blind, but I wasn't anymore. I was angry, betrayed, and feeling a strange mix of sadness and rage. I had given her everything, my trust, my love, my business, and now she was taking everything from me in one single night. How could she do this? How could she be so selfish? I decided I couldn't stay quiet anymore. I needed her to face the consequences of her actions. I scheduled a meeting with her, my lawyer, and the investigators. I wanted to lay everything out, her affair, the theft, her lies. I wanted her to see I was serious. On that day, I told her I knew everything. Her face contorted again, that bitchy sneer, like she was trying to manipulate her way out of it. She kept telling me I was overreacting, that I was just jealous, that she loved me. I didn't believe her anymore, not for a second. That confrontation was the start of a new chapter. I knew I had to prepare for the worst: divorce, losing the house, losing everything I'd worked for. But I also knew I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything. I was going to fight for what's mine, for my reputation, and for the truth. The betrayal had cut so deep I could feel it in my bones, and as angry as I was, I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been a fool, but I wasn't going to be a victim. Not anymore. The days that followed were a blur of meetings, legal calls, and sleepless nights. I threw myself into gathering every piece of evidence I could find: bank statements, text messages, emails, even her social media activity. I needed to make sure I had everything documented. Of course, was still acting like she was the victim, throwing tantrums, calling me paranoid, insisting I was crazy for accusing her of anything. She played the victim card hard, trying to turn everyone against me. She's good at that, blame shifting, crying crocodile tears, acting innocent when she was the one who'd betrayed everything we built. I remember one particular night she sat on the couch, makeup smudged, hair disheveled, trying to look innocent. "You're just jealous, Tyler," she sneered, voice dripping with fake concern. "You're so insecure. Mark and I, it's just sex, that's all. You're overreacting because you're scared of losing me." Yeah, right. I'd heard enough of her lies. I knew she was lying about everything, and I could see through her manipulations. I just sat there, staring at her, feeling the rage boiling inside me. She had the nerve to look me in the eye and deny everything, even after I showed her the evidence. Meanwhile, I had to deal with the fallout from the theft. Our business accounts were drained and the money was gone. She'd been funneling it to her and Mark's secret accounts, planning her escape route. I found out she'd been laundering the money through fake companies, fake invoices, and shell accounts. She was so confident she could get away with it. I couldn't believe I'd trusted her for so long. She was the last person I thought would do something like this. We had built a decent life, or so I thought. Now it was all crumbling, and I was left with nothing but debts and a shattered trust. I also discovered she'd been secretly planning her escape for months. She bought a new apartment downtown, hidden the key, and even started changing her contact info. I found receipts for furniture she'd bought for her new place, and she'd been talking to movers behind my back. It was like she was already gone in her mind, preparing for her new life without me. The worst part was knowing she'd lied every step of the way, pretending she was committed, pretending she loved me. And all the while, she was plotting her exit, stealing our money and betraying everything. I felt dumb, naive, and furious all at once. I kept asking myself where I went wrong. Was I too blind to see the signs? Did I miss the clues? Or was she just that good at hiding her true self? It didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had to act fast to protect what was left. I hired a forensic accountant to trace the stolen money, and we filed a police report for theft and fraud. I also told my lawyer I wanted a divorce, and I wanted to make sure she couldn't get away with any more lies or manipulations. The more I uncovered, the clearer it became that she was a master manipulator, always knew how to turn things around in her favor. She'd cry, act like the victim, and blame me for everything. But I wasn't falling for it anymore. I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a thief, and someone capable of destroying everything we'd built. I knew I couldn't trust her, not anymore. The betrayal was too deep and my trust was shattered beyond repair. I had to focus on protecting myself and whatever was left of my life, even if it meant losing her forever. The legal process moved fast once I had all the evidence laid out. My lawyer was ruthless, filing for full custody of the kids, freezing her assets, and pushing for a divorce that would strip her of any claim to the house or the stolen money. Of course, threw a fit, trying every trick in the book to stall or manipulate the situation. She showed up to court crying fake tears, claiming she was the victim, that I was trying to ruin her life. She insisted she loved the kids and that she'd never do anything to hurt them, even though I had proof of her affair, her theft, and her lies. One of the most surreal moments was when she sat in front of the judge, trying to deny everything, claiming her messages with Mark were just harmless flirtation, that she was trying to get her career back on track, and that I was just jealous. I couldn't believe her audacity. She looked right at me, smirking, knowing she was lying through her teeth. I felt a mix of rage and disgust. It was like watching a criminal try to convince everyone she was innocent. The judge wasn't buying it, especially after seeing the evidence. The bank statements, the hotel receipts, the messages, they all painted a clear picture. Meanwhile, I started to feel the full weight of everything I'd lost. Not just the money, but my trust, my marriage, my reputation. I'd always been the stable one, the guy who worked hard, paid the bills, kept everything running smoothly. And now I was sitting here, watching her manipulate her way out of it like she was the victim. It was infuriating. I kept asking myself why I hadn't seen it sooner, why I'd been so blind to her true nature. She always acted like she was in control, like she was the one calling the shots, even when she was secretly sneaking around and stealing from me. The worst part was realizing how much she'd hurt the kids. She's so good at pretending she cares, but I knew her lies had already started to affect them. They're young, impressionable, and they loved their mother. But I could see the confusion in their eyes, the way they'd ask me questions about why mommy wasn't home or why she was acting so strange. I wanted to protect them from her lies, but I also knew I couldn't shield them from the truth forever. They deserved honesty, even if it hurt. As for she kept up her bitchy attitude, throwing tantrums during every court appearance. She'd scream, cry, accuse me of trying to ruin her life, all while secretly scheming behind the scenes. I knew she'd never accept defeat easily. She's always been a manipulator, a liar, someone who would do anything to get her way. Her game was to make herself look innocent, to paint me as the bad guy, and to cling to whatever shred of control she still had. But I wasn't going to let her win. I was done being played. I also started to realize that I needed to focus on rebuilding myself. I'd lost my marriage, my money, and my sense of stability, but I still had my integrity. I decided I wasn't going to let her take everything, not just the material stuff, but my dignity. I hired a counselor to help me process everything, to deal with the anger and betrayal. I also reached out to friends and family, people I could trust, to help me get through this mess. I knew I couldn't do it alone, and I didn't want to. Every day now is a battle. Some days I wake up feeling strong, determined to fight for what's right. Other days I feel broken and exhausted, questioning everything I believed in. But through it all, I keep telling myself one thing: I will come out of this stronger, even if it doesn't feel like it right now. I've learned that some people are capable of destroying everything they touch, and I've learned to be cautious about who I trust. Most importantly, I've learned that revenge isn't always about hurting someone back. Sometimes it's just making sure they can't hurt you anymore. And that's exactly what I plan to do. The court battles dragged on longer than I expected. Acting out, trying to stall everything, claiming she needed more time, more money, and that she was the victim. It was a constant back and forth, her crying crocodile tears one day, then shouting and throwing tantrums the next. Every hearing was a reminder of how calculated she could be, how she could spin any situation to her advantage if given enough rope. I stayed firm, sticking to the facts and making sure every piece of evidence was airtight. During this process, I also started to rebuild my life in small ways. I got a new job, more hours, trying to get my finances back on track. I moved into a temporary apartment because I couldn't stand being in the house anymore. Too many memories, too much pain. I kept my distance from as much as possible, knowing any contact only gave her more opportunities to manipulate or lie. Honestly, I didn't want to see her, didn't want to hear her voice. That woman was poison now. One of the worst moments was when she accused me of weaponizing the kids against her, playing the victim again. She told everyone I was trying to keep her away from them, that I was the villain. But everyone who knew us, who saw the evidence, knew the truth. I was just trying to protect them from her lies, her manipulations, and her betrayal. It hurt like hell to see her try to turn people against me, to see her try to control the narrative even as her world was falling apart. Meanwhile, I made sure I kept detailed records of everything, every court appearance, every conversation, every piece of evidence. I knew she'd try to twist things, lie her way out of accountability, but I was prepared. I hired a forensic accountant to trace the stolen money, and he uncovered more than I ever suspected. She'd hidden assets, bought property under fake names, and even transferred money to offshore accounts. She thought she was clever, but I had the proof that would bring her down. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry beyond words. I'd always been the guy who kept it together, who provided stability. But now I was vulnerable, heartbroken over the marriage, angry at the lies, and exhausted from fighting to keep what little I had left. I'd sit in my new apartment late at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I could ever trust anyone again. How could someone I loved so deeply turn out to be capable of such deceit? The pain was raw, but I knew I had to keep going. Giving up wasn't an option. I also started to see the bigger picture, how her greed and betrayal had exposed her true nature. She'd always been bitchy, manipulative, and selfish, but I never thought she'd betray me like this, steal from our family, lie to everyone, and try to destroy what we built. It was a wake-up call. I realized I had to focus on healing myself, not just legally but emotionally. I started therapy, started talking openly with friends who knew the real story. I needed to process all this anger and heartbreak, and I knew I couldn't do it alone. The final court dates are approaching now. I'm nervous, but I also feel a strange sense of closure. I know it's not going to change. She's a manipulative, selfish person who only cares about herself. I've accepted that I'll probably never get back what I lost, but I can at least protect myself and ensure she doesn't get away with everything she's done. The big lesson here: trust is fragile, and some people are just capable of destroying everything in their path. But I'm learning to rebuild, to move forward, and to be smarter about who I let into my life. That's the best revenge I could ask for. Now, as I sit here reflecting on everything, I realize how much I've been changed by this ordeal. It's like I've been through a fire that's burned away all my illusions about trust and love. Betrayal, her lies, her theft, they've left scars I know will take time to heal. But in a strange way, I'm grateful for the clarity it's given me. I've learned that some people are just incapable of genuine loyalty, no matter how much you want to believe in them. The hardest lesson was accepting that you can't fix someone who chooses to be selfish and manipulative. I've also learned that revenge isn't about hurting her back. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I made sure she paid for her betrayal through the court system, through losing her grip on the house, through the financial ruin she tried to cause me. But more than that, I've learned to forgive myself for trusting her, for believing in the good in people. Because now I know better. I know that I have to be cautious, that I have to protect myself, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply moving on and rebuilding stronger. Today, I've started focusing on myself. I've taken up new hobbies, started working out, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. I want my kids to see a father who's resilient, who rises above betrayal and heartbreak. I want them to learn that even when life throws the worst at you, you can come out the other side better, more cautious, more aware, but also more hopeful. I'm not perfect, and I still carry the pain of what she did, but I refuse to let it define me. Looking back, I can say I've grown a lot. I've become more aware of the red flags, more careful with whom I trust, and more determined to protect what's mine. The betrayal by was devastating, but it also taught me the importance of self-respect and boundaries. I've learned that some people are just incapable of honesty, and the only way to deal with that is to cut them out of your life completely. To anyone reading this who's going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs, no matter how inconvenient or uncomfortable they are. Protect yourself, your family, and your peace of mind. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away, rebuild from the ashes, and never look back. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and integrity are what matter most. And if someone is willing to betray everything you stand for, they don't deserve a second chance. Only you do. Only you deserve to be happy and whole again.